the Evolution Security Podcast. Welcome to the EvoSec podcast. We're excited to be here with a bonus episode, and we're going to kind of recount 2022 just a little bit, kind of a wrap up of some quick accountability, because we don't get to do accountability. That was a major feature of our show, but we haven't been able to do that because of how much content we've had with our guests. But, you know, we're here coming out to you on little packets of ones and zeros. And, you know, there's lots to bemoan the internet, right, Eric? There's a lot of crap. You know, it's been used to manipulate, just downright control people's reality. But I won't go too much further into that. But the point is, one amazing thing is the advent of the podcast. And to be part of that world is just amazing. You know, you can get an amazing lifelong education by listening to podcasts. You can be entertained and or educated on any topic you want. There are, Eric, I think there's roughly 2.5 million podcasts in the world.
I think that's about accurate, yeah.
What's kind of fun is we're in the top 2.5%. Now, do the math. That's in a lot of podcasts, but that's still pretty darn cool. So, but, you know, Eric, again, it's a blast to be a part of this medium and to be here. And it's so amazing. We're humbled by the response we've received over the last 3 years. Like I said, we're going to kind of recount 2022, but 2023 is shaping up to be another growth in our podcast and our training business and what we're up to. So, just looking forward to this year, but let's kind of talk about last year a little bit. Eric, I'm kind of hogging the mic here. How you doing, brother? Other half of the Tactical Twins.
Man, I'm doing wonderful. And like you said, Aaron, it's been a real productive year, and I'll kind of draw back to one of the aspects of this show and then this small side business we have going on, because again, folks know we have day jobs. But one of the things that we noticed very, very readily apparent when we started this is this show forced us to do better, right? You know, in all of the attributes and acumen that we believe are important in this self-protection path we're on, we just did more of it. Now, Aaron, you may agree with this. When we first did it, I think sometimes we got overly concerned about making sure we're checking the blocks each week, and although that was absolutely what we were doing, I think at some point you start losing sight of what you're really trying to accomplish. So I think what we've realized is that we're always hitting the primary, again, attributes and acumen that we should be working on, but we're not beating up ourselves if one aspect of it gets a little bit of a backseat because we're periodizing. I mean, heck, we're approaching 50 now, and sometimes you're going to make sure that you're getting in recovery and you're focusing on your areas that you really need to improve on the most, and some of the other areas may go into a little bit of a maintenance mode. So that's
Yeah,
kind
bro.
of the way
We
this year's been too.
yeah, we can talk about that kind of injury thing here. Getting a little older here. And by the way, if my voice starts going, forgive me. I'm dealing with a sinus infection. It's that time of year, lots of fun, but I hit it pretty quick to get some antibiotics because I could tell it was going the wrong direction.
Yeah, I had two of those, man.
Yeah.
Sometime at the beginning of the season, and I'm grabbing this phone real quick, making sure that I've got that on silent. I saw it light up, just making sure. Not that a little disturbance isn't horrible, but anyway, man, what do you want to start with, Aaron?
Well, let's see. We don't need to spend a lot of time on this, because I think as we were talking a little bit, there's people that do a lot more than us.
Absolutely.
When it comes to this path and work a lot harder.
And a lot of them are our listeners and supporters.
Yeah, that's right.
Again, talk about feeling humbled,
Yeah, exactly.
Or feeling humbled,
Yeah. But we're excited and we hit some milestones this year. And man, let's just talk a little bit about that. We were able to go to a handful of training events. Like at the beginning, I think it was in March, we went to that amazing Cliff Byerly class. People have to seek that gentleman out. He is one of the best people to go to in the integrated fighting systems. And what a cool guy. He's become a friend of ours.
Yeah, that class was an incredible class, man. Again, a lot of these classes we talk about all the time are life-changing. That was another life-changing class. Mm-hmm. And for audience members out there that are familiar with the ShivWorks, ECQC, of course, Craig Douglas, we talk about him a lot. If you're familiar with that, then Cliff Byerly, his class is different, of course. It has some similarities, but Cliff has his own expertise in other areas as well. BJJ black belt, solid wrestler, a Marine. And so, frankly, man, he had some different takes on a lot of the material. And that class also didn't have any live fire, so you spent more time, in the combatives piece. And then, of course, the UTM, cartridges and doing the scenario work was just phenomenal. So, yeah, man, that, folks.
Well, let's make it clear, just real quick that Craig has a background in undercover operations there in Mississippi, where he really honed a lot of what he has focused in his content on. Cliff was an officer. Forgive me, buddy, but he was an officer. I think he was in Compton.
Yeah,
am I
absolutely
misremembering that?
I know that he was in L.A. SWAT. Absolutely. So yeah, he was in some rough areas. Yep.
Yeah. So he's got an informed opinion and knowledge base of what he teaches. So yeah. Everybody needs to seek him out. That was a great milestone too, and I'm looking forward to training with him again.
Most certainly. So then we took the Range Master Advanced Instructor Development class in Texas at KR Training. That was, man, a good time. Real quick, short shout out to Nick Delgadillo. That has become again another awesome friend of ours, and so it was great meeting him and training with him and all the other folks there, and that was a great class as well, man. And not only that, again, whenever we get to take classes together, they just become some of the best memories we have. And I look back at that class this last year with the same fondness of taking an ECQC together or what have you. So, man, your thoughts on that class?
Man, it was excellent. It was great to finally meet Carl Wren. Shout out to him. Great facility there. And, I mean, there were some amazing shooters. And, Tom Givens is a legend for a reason. And so it's amazing to learn under him and the information about being an instructor, the business side of it, the liability side of it. He had so much interesting information about that. And some of it, I was kind of surprised his take on it. Like his take on insurance as an instructor. But, to learn about that, you really should take one of his classes. His instructor development classes are excellent. And here pretty soon, we're going to go ahead and take that master class too. But
yeah, you beat me to it, Aaron. That's something that, we haven't spoke with Tom on. Again, we're not super close to Tom. He's definitely one of our primary instructors now. We're getting to know him a little better, but Aaron, my guess is that he's still in it for a while. But we got a lot of legends like Tom. Dave Spalding just retired. You got folks that are retiring, and I don't want to let too much time go by without taking the master level range master class, because you know what, we do have a finite amount of time, and I'd hate to miss out on adding that to our classes and resume.
Yeah, Eric, and that reminds me too. We got to reach out to Mike Seeclander and plan that. That's one of the 2023 things. We need to plan that class with him and Rich.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to possibly bring him and Rob Latham here for the bigger circle class too.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. So I guess we sit here and think about, I think, Aaron, you and I had decided that we would try to, make sure that we made it to at least 2 classes a year. And for the most part, we've been maintaining that, but typically more. But, I'm also not going to beat up on myself if I'm not going to 10 classes in a year. It's just unrealistic with the day job, and frankly, until we're independently wealthy, still got to be choosy on what we spend our money on, and as EvoSec becomes a little more profitable, that can pay for a little more, then by golly, we'll do it. But we're thankful for what EvoSec is helping with. So, but nonetheless, I guess I just took Scott Jedelinsky's class, at the I guess in October, his Red Dot instructor class. That was a phenomenal class, and frankly, as I was shooting at the range yesterday, which we're going to talk a little more about, there's a lot of aspects of Scott's both technique and the big changes to me is my stance. And frankly, Aaron, it's funny, when we were teaching that class together, what I learned from Scott and my old techniques were trying to compete with each other. I think I'm finally, through my dry fire and spending more time with my notes from Scott's class, that I think I'm finally starting to settle into what changes I have committed to from what I learned from Scott.
I guess, and also commenting on that, you're not committing to everything that he taught, right? Yep. Because you take what really works for you, and And there was a lot that worked for you, and I'm excited to see that myself. But
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that works for me on classes. We got anything else to hit on class wise?
I think that's
I think
it.
that's it. Other than we can kind of comment later in this discussion about some of the classes we taught this year, but if we don't get to that, that's okay too. Eh, With that said, Aaron, man, what do you want to go over next?
Man, let's talk about the fact that I finally decided to build a garage gym and get my strength program going.
That's huge, man. I'm just going to stop you there, and I'll let you continue your comment, bro. It's huge, man. It's something that, again, as we get older, I'm really, really excited and proud of you for finally. I know it took you a minute, but I'm real proud of you for making that happen. And I know you're probably already seeing that, man. This is going to be huge in my life and for the rest of my life. But go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no matter how many times I heard you talk about it, Larry Lindemann, and of course Nick, like I said multiple times, and bro, I hope you aren't mad at me about it, because Nick basically told me the exact same things that you have told me for years, but I don't know, for some reason on that show with him, it really solidified that I really had to make that commitment and change my life with it, right? So, I put together a garage gym with about 300 pounds of bumper plates, and I've got a good squat rack or stand, I guess. What do you call what I got? Is
It's a squat stand, but man, so is mine. But I call it a squat rack because it is a squat rack. It's just a little difference, the terminology for rack kind of starts to, essentially be accepted as the systems that have, four, tall braces and, of course, bars at the top, for lack of a better explanation. But yeah, man, I mean, it's a squat rack, even though the proper nomenclature might be stand. So anyway, I'm bloviating. Go ahead.
So, I didn't put together a rogue gym, which is awesome stuff, but I didn't really skimp either.
No.
My son, both my sons, both those dudes are machines now. And my son was talking about, he said our gear is 10 times better than any of the gyms that he goes to. I didn't realize that they kind of had junky barbell stuff in gyms. But long story short, we got a great bench and went down to the Tractor Supply and got some of those real thick, tough rubber. They're horse.
They're horse stall mats. They're horse stall mats. Yep.
And I didn't realize how tough those things would be. But so we've got that set up now, Eric. I do have to say this. So one of the bummers is that I was doing some negative chin-ups, and dude, almost right off the bat, I injured my arm. My tendon in my bicep is fairly well injured, and I'll talk about another aspect of that may be a nerve issue or my strength going down a little bit in my arm. Again, we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I've been able to maintain anything that's pushing or with my arms straight, it's just fine. So deadlifts, squats, and bench press, I can still do. And I'm about to hit that here after this recording. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, and I have to admit too, again, even though, shout out to Nick again, I'm holding my starting strength book. I have had to modify some of what I've been doing the last couple of weeks. Like today, my squats I replaced with kettlebell lunges because I was on my feet a lot this week and my back was a little bit more tense. So that's the only real modification I made. And Aaron, I kind of used to poo-poo on bench press for a while, over the last few years. I was like, all you need is a dip bar and push-ups. You can do weighted dips. But, that's something that I'm kind of missed in my workouts was, at least being able to have the option to do bench as a press option. And also my wife got me that Rogue flat bench for Christmas. It was one of my gifts. And then all these other variations that I can do with everybody that knows what you can do variation wise with just having a bench that you didn't have prior has been a really awesome addition to both my workouts and to my home gym. So I guess that's a little bit of a roundup for my gym. I've had mine since 2016. I was deployed. I think I've told this story. I was at Camp Taji, Iraq, and man, that probably is why I spent just a little bit more because I was making a little more money at the time overseas. So I was on Rogue's website just ordering stuff, man. So I really dig my gym, but I wanted to reemphasize that, yeah, man, you got some good gear, and nothing skimping in my opinion, not just because. Nah. So yeah, man, you got an awesome new gym. I'm real glad for you.
Well, I think on that same topic, Eric, let's go ahead and just talk about one of our sponsors real quick.
Let's do it.
We're talking about Origin, who we pinch ourselves for being involved with them, being an affiliate with them, having an affiliate link that people can purchase through the links on our show. Now, just an amazing company, and they keep growing. They keep adding more amazing products. But I just wanted to talk about a hoodie that I ordered. But Eric, you can speak on that. You're wearing one right now. You're wearing your Path 100 kilo hoodie right there, right?
Oh yeah. And this thing is impressive. I'll be honest with you, man. It's a thick hoodie. Like if it's at all warm in a location, this sucker will start getting you a little hot at times. But yeah, I mean it's made so well, better than any hoodie I've ever owned. Of course, go figure its origin. But the fact that it's the 100 kilo as the name is pretty cool. Origin bought 100,000 pounds worth of American grown cotton because they're all about being U.S. made, and of course it's made by American workers on U.S. soil. And frankly, man, I don't know. This thing's gonna last forever. Essentially, it's bomb proof. And you just ordered one, didn't you?
Bro, yesterday I was looking through their site and drilling over that stuff, and now here's the deal. So what reminded me to talk about them real quick is that as I've started my workouts, I've realized how much I need a good hoodie to warm up as I'm doing some jump rope, etc., to warm up my body and to warm up on some light weight. I just needed a good hoodie. And I'll be frank, dude, I don't like pulling hoodies over my head and taking them off. And hey, if you're in public and you got to take one off, might pull your shirt up and expose your pistol. Mm-hmm. So I prefer everything to have a zip up. So they have, I think it was just released too, maybe after that one that you got. I'm not sure, but it's a cool OD green zip up hoodie. It's that same cotton that they use for that. Man, I'm stoked about it. So it should be in here pretty soon. I hope it doesn't take too long.
Oh,
But
it shouldn't. You'll probably see it in a matter of days. And for our audience members out there, again, the best jiu-jitsu gis made on the market, and they have a variety of. I mean, you can go a little less expensive on some of their lines, and then you can get their top of the line flagship gis made out of the Gorilla Weaves, which I've got a couple of those. And again, the Path gi. I mean, I just because we're talking about being on the path, so I love that. And so, if you're interested in any of their products, apparel, T-shirts, hoodies, jiu-jitsu gis, Jocko Fuel supplements, go to our show notes and click on the affiliate link. We get a little kickback from that. It helps us, and it helps Origin know that their investment in us is working for them. You can use EvoSec 10. Now, I have to admit, at this recording, we've had some folks tell us it wasn't working, but Origin's getting that squared away for us. So,
yeah,
otherwise, we don't care if you use our code. We prefer it. If it's not working, just use one of their factory codes that you can get. So,
good
that
deal.
said,
Yeah, amazing company. I wanted to make sure we talked about them real quick. Now on strength, man, I think that's good to go.
Yep, absolutely.
So
Go ahead.
then let's just talk real quick. And then let's talk about 2023, bro. I was so stoked to see those pictures of you getting your purple belt. And Eric, you've been in jiu-jitsu for roughly how many years, bro?
Well, 2005 was when I was actually formal Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I was exposed to jiu-jitsu, 10 years before that at Gibson's Martial Arts. But I just, it wasn't the same level of, pure jiu-jitsu training. So, yeah, but I'd say 2005 is when I really started. Yep.
And some may say, man, it took you that long to get your purple belt. Well, they need to recall what your job is, how often you get to go overseas with the military and change locations, etc. But that's a big milestone, and I know it was something that you were working really hard towards this year, because your gym tests the material. It's not just let's just see and you kind of check the boxes and are there for some time and you get promoted. You got to test for it.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
well, Aaron, and on that note, I appreciate those kind words, and so the same feeling I got this year when you got your blue belt. That, and again, we told the story when we discussed it. At first, I didn't notice it, because you sent me a picture. I forget what I was doing, and because your combatives belt, I could still see your combatives belt, and then I took a double take, and I'm like, "What? Blue belt?" It was huge, man, and I'm very proud of you for making that accomplishment. And man, just it was a good year for both of us, jiu-jitsu wise, and it was kind of cool. This last week, got another stripe on my purple, so moving along on that. So yeah, congrats on that blue belt, brother.
thank you. Well, it took me a while to get it too, but that's all right. I've got lots of priorities, and we've talked about a lot of what we do, and like you said, we won't beat ourselves up for having to prioritize and periodize what we do. But Eric,
Aaron, I do want to add to that, and I'm not at all making excuses for how long it took me. There was a point in time, Aaron, for quite a few years where it was not as much a priority either. There was a time where I was putting a lot more focus in shooting and and what we were doing based around Craig's material too. But that's kind of a little bit of a dichotomy though, because if you're focusing on Craig's material, you're also putting huge focus in jiu-jitsu. So anyway, I think that from now on, I don't see myself not focusing on it, at least to a degree where I'm at class 2-3 times a week for consistency. But
well, Eric, let's go ahead and jump towards what we got going on this year. You mentioned that we try to get to about at least 2 classes a year. I think this is going to be an even bigger year. I'm looking. We might bump that up to about 4 classes a year going forward. And
no reason why we can't get into 4 a year.
The way this year's already shaken out, we've got number one, we've got TACCon coming up, which is going to be a blast. We
our first one,
yeah. The who's who of who we look up to, and I'm digressing a little bit. A lot of shows. There's some great podcasts that at least touch on some of the same topics that we touch on. But I'll tell you, I'm proud that our primary focus on this show is training. Having our guests are mainly giants in the training industry, so. We're looking forward to meeting a lot of those guys in person, seeing a lot of
and gals,
guys and gals. Yes, oh yeah, I can't wait to meet Annette Evans.
Yep,
and Amy Langdon's going to be there. Tiffany Johnson, she's running that show. I can't wait to see her again. But yeah, that's going to be a blast. Any thoughts on that, bro?
I'm just super pumped about it, man. I'm surprised that it took us this long. We've known about TACCon for years, and Aaron, I've told this story too. There's times where if you're not paying attention to a certain avenue for information, you overlook it. They were doing some TACCons at just south of where I lived in Washington State. So, yeah.
Bro, they had them
in Tulsa too.
Man, it seems like they at least had them in Oklahoma at least once, and they definitely, I think it was at Meade Hall once. I could be wrong on that, but it was definitely held close to me. But Eric, one thing that we won't talk a lot about TACCon, but I do want to say this, that one of the fun things about TACCon is that you've got so many pistol or shooting. I think it's mostly pistol. You've got lots of great pistol classes that you can go to. And so if you don't know how this works, basically there's 3 days and there's probably 10 classes going on or 10 blocks going on at any one time. And, you want to get into some shooting classes with, for instance, I wanted to get into a Scott Jedlinski one, a Ernest Langdon one, Jeff Gonzalez. But, the bummer is that you want to get in some of those. But you know what the most important thing to me, and I'm not just trying to act above all the shooting classes because they're a lot of fun, but the most important thing for me at that is to go to some lectures.
Absolutely.
John Hearn, I'm pretty sure Masada Ube is going to be there. Caleb Cossey, 100%. I'm getting in a John Hearn lecture, and I'm getting in one of Caleb's blocks. He's got an EDC medical kit class that I hope that one of my pistol classes, because what I'm trying to say is, you sign up for these pistol classes, and then they put you in them, and it's almost like you feel like, I chose 4 classes. I'm like, man, do I have to go to all 4 of those classes, or can I just choose a couple of those? I don't know how that works, bro, but
yeah, not do I. And shout out to Lee Weems. Looking forward to meeting him, and seeing Sherman House again, back in the day when he was teaching at Tactical Response, and also, I'll stop there a second. Unfortunately, we lost James Yeager this year. Godspeed to James. But yeah, it'd be nice to see Sherman House again, and Cecil will be there, I'm sure, and Craig. I'm sure. I know Cecil's going to be there. Hopefully meet up with Paul Sharp. Hopefully he's going to be there. But yeah, man, I think more importantly to me, definitely is the lectures, but also the relationships that you develop out of going to events like that. So it's going to be good, man. So
yeah, and lastly, and then we'll move on from TacCon. There's also a week-long pistol competition, and I can. I'm not even going to say their names, but I have two guys that I know they're going to be shooting off against each other.
Yep.
And I want to report back to see if that occurred and which one of those guys won. I have their names right in my mind right now. I'm just not going to say it. But hey, so we'll get to compete against those guys. I don't care how well I do, but I want to shoot with and against all those people. It's gonna be a blast to we definitely promote the idea of competition. I've also changed my idea of what competition has to be right after having Scott Jadlinski on.
Yeah, that was a great way to look at competition, is amongst your range peers too. And I think back, when we used to train with Mike Brown, he would always add some competitive element to it, even if it just be. I'll never forget one time. I forget how many of us were there, but just and I think he just said, okay, whoever I forget, it's like you owe the winner a Coke or something like that. It was just something minor, but the zero on the IDPA target. Mm-hmm. So we went back to about, I don't know, 5 or 7 yards, something like that, and all the competition was whoever got closest to the zero won. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of close, but Mike nailed it right through the center of that little circle. Oh, it was pretty cool, man. That's funny having some of those memories.
Bro, real quick. My last competition, I don't know if you remember this, and dude, I was so mad. I dropped the F-bomb when I did it. I try not to be negative, but man, I went around a corner, and dude, there was a no-shoot sitting there, and I'm telling you, bro, I shot that no-shoot through the zero. I was like, yeah, bam. Oh, F, But
did you say the OF during the stage?
Oh, dude, I yelled it.
That's funny.
But yeah, that's like, man, I can hit the zero of a non-shoot. 5 seconds added to my score.
Well, all joking aside, we know we don't want to do that, but that's why we train hard, is to mitigate making mistakes. And competition's a good realm to do that. And thank God it was just a target, a paper target.
Well, it just shows you, and I don't really care that I did it. And I don't necessarily care how I do in those competitions. I care that's incorrect. I'll be honest, I try to be in the top 10 of club matches. And I usually make it there, but I'm competing against myself. I know that's cliche, but the point is that you're processing information, and I processed information incorrectly. It's nice to do that every now and then.
Well, Aaron, how often do we process information incorrectly in a Evo?
Oh yeah,
in a scenario with marking cartridges, simunitions or UTM. Yeah, that's folks are going to make mistakes, but that's why you continue to train, is to mitigate the fact that you would do that on the street. So yeah.
Well, bro, let's just touch on a couple more classes that we're planning on, and then let's get on to the next stuff, because I wanna. There's some important information to talk about, but I'll just say at least what I know we're planning to do. Number one, we're going to get to a call to 4 class.
Oh yeah.
And at least, so we got TACCON, a call to 4 class, and I will be taking Scott Jedlinski's instructor development course. I forget what he calls it, but of course, Red Dot instructor course here in freaking Oklahoma City, just a quick drive away. I don't even have to stay in a hotel if I don't want to, but I'm sure I will to make it a little easier.
Yep.
And we're gonna try. It's the beginning of the year, bro. We need to text Mike Seeklander. Mm-hmm. I believe we're gonna try and host him at some point this year.
Well, and Aaron, I'll say this: I'm planning on taking Scott Jedlinski's class again, because I won't say his last name, but John, the host, he plans on hosting him again this year. So I plan on getting right back in, because man, I'm aiming to shoot those black belt standards. At least get at least try to get the baby. What was it, the 3/4? I forget exactly. Scott's going to want to beat me up now for forgetting. But speaking of, so one of my prized possessions this year was getting my patch. Do you see a little details on this?
Oh yeah.
Does it look like it's been chewed on by a dog?
Oh yeah. Did Brody get after that, or did your beagle?
Oh no, it was the beagle. Brody wouldn't do some crap like that.
Dude, why did Snoopy do that?
Yeah, that girl, she's a little holy terror. She picked it up off of my desk, just grabbed it, and next thing I know, I'm like, what is she chewing on? And it's my freaking MSP patch, man.
So you need to go to class just to get another one of those.
Exactly. I mean, it's still. But anyway, yeah. Well, Aaron, before we move on, I just want to say something super special happened to me over the last couple of days. And, Aaron, I've had mixed bags of range capabilities over the last 20 years, since I've been, more than 20 years now. And, I've had some good range situations. I had access to shoot with Brian, and that was great. But there's times, man, where wherever your home range is, you just want it to be ideal. I mean, not everything can be ideal, right? So
not everything's like my range here.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what, Aaron? I now belong to a range very similar, and yeah. I'm not gonna to actually say the name of the range, simply because it's a private range, and I don't have permission of the owner to put out on the air, because let's face it, it is private. And I'll say this: there's only 200 members, right? And they keep it at that. Number. Now, if there's an audience member that lives in the Fort Bragg area that you're interested, please email. I will absolutely tell you what it is. I just don't want to say it over the air because I don't have permission. So
you don't want to say it over the ones and zeros.
Yeah, exactly. But so Aaron, number one, I was on a waiting list for about a year and a half, and so let me digress a second. Speaking of that, there were some guys that showed up to the range brief, Aaron, that had been on the list for over 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so I feel lucky.
So in other words, a few spots came open pretty at the same time.
Yeah, Aaron. Well, frankly, also the range officer awesome guy. David, I'll just say his first name. He said that he had to make the decision that he's letting the list go over a little bit over 200 this year. He said because he felt he felt that it was wrong that some of these guys have been waiting so long. And so yeah, great guy. So
Bro, can I ask you this real quick? So being where it is, are a lot of those members SF and former SF, you think?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, where I discovered this range was my buddy right down the street who's a SF team leader, and he's the one that first took me out there. And I was
he's currently serving?
Oh yeah,
cool,
definitely.
Cool.
And so yeah, it's number one, Aaron. It's 15 minutes from my house, which is incredible. Because I've been shooting on post, which is an awesome range as well, but this just blows that opportunity away for certain. But yeah, 15 minutes from the house. Again, it's private. You know, we have a code to get in the fence. And yesterday, on a Saturday, I show up and we're coming around the corner because it was a little bit of a funny story. My wife went out there with me to do the initiation and the range brief. And, you know, turn in my money and application. And in the morning on Saturday, yesterday, she goes, "I'm surprised you weren't wanting to go back out to the range today." And I'm like, ding, ding, ding. You know what? It's time to go out there. So I was a little worried about being on a Saturday, just, you know, if it would be crowded. Mm-hmm. But we pull up and the gates close. I'm like, man, is this closed for a reason? Yeah, it was closed because nobody was there. Wow. So I had that whole range to myself. Not that that's necessary. But bottom line is there's about 5 bays that are similar to the USSA bays, Aaron, where if you get
You're
there,
talking about my range here in Tulsa.
If there's an open bay, it's your bay. Right now, granted, if you notice a bunch of people have been waiting for a while, man, it's just cool if you just invite them on and you know just share the bay, of course. And but there's also a 300 yard rifle range, cool. and it's big boy rules at that range. I mean, of course, you got to maintain all the 4 cardinal safety rules, but you get to do what you want to do training wise. I mean, you can move and shoot. You can set up IDPA type stages to practice. You can shoot carbine, shotgun, and pistol all in the same bay. You know, you don't have to move
good because we can't do that on ours.
Really, I didn't know that.
Well, the 50-yard ranges you can, but if you go on one of the 25-yard bays, they're pistol only.
Okay, right on. But you have, depending on if it's crowded or not, you've got about 35, 40 yards that you can work with, which, you know, for civilians with the carbine, that's a decent amount of room to work with. Mm-hmm. And of course, with pistol, that's plenty of distance. So yeah, man, I'm super pumped. You know, yesterday, Aaron, I think you and I agree. You know, we can run the gun pretty quickly and pretty accurately, but I think we discovered in the last couple of years that, you know, being able to shoot on command more accurate has been my goal this year. And so really all I worked yesterday was working some Scott Jedlinski's 2-inch squares, you know, focusing on 10-yard, getting 100% in those squares. And I moved out to 25 and just shot a B8 bull, or it actually wasn't a B8. It was the size of a B8 bull. It's what I had on me. And I had some good results. And then I shot carbine the rest of the time. You know, ran the gun. I did a little bit of Kyle DeFore's newer carbine hat qual stuff. And
cool.
that was a blast. You know, we always have some form of a plan, right?
What AR did you run?
Aaron, I ran the AR behind me. It's my main BCM, my main BCM carbine. So that's what I
Bro,
ran yesterday.
it's hard for me to see which one it is. Is that the pistol or is that your
Oh, no,
is that your 16-inch?
It's actually, Aaron, I'm running a 14 and a half with a pinned
Yeah, that's what I
muzzle
mean.
device.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Same here, which is what I run. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess that about covers it, man. But I had a blast. I'm really, really encouraged about this range, Aaron. I frankly, because it is more ideal, I think that my shooting is going to hit a new level this year.
Excellent.
Because let's be frank, I mean, you can dry fire, and dry fire is the king of practice, but your affirmation on the live fire range is where you really gain your capabilities. So I think this is going to be big for my shooting from now on, however long we're here.
Excellent.
Pretty pumped.
Well, bro, I think I had just a couple of fun things to say, and then I want to start talking about maybe a couple of more serious things. But so, Eric, I inadvertently joined a band last week.
Inadvertently?
Yeah. Eric, you recall one of our friends, Marcos, I won't say his last name, but I'm talking about, killer musician. And he asked me about a week and a half ago to play a gig in a band backing up his daughter. So his daughter is, I'm not sure how old she is, but she's in her early 20s. Dude, I was floored when so we had one rehearsal before this gig. And, luckily I've got the skills that I can, here's my chart book for this gig. Luckily, I can read charts because I didn't have enough time to memorize 30 songs.
Yeah, no kidding.
So, but we show up to that rehearsal, and Marcos had written a bunch of charts for us, and we start playing and do this band, really good. Here's the point, and shout out to Carl Wren. He'll appreciate this too because he still gigs quite a bit. And he probably does a lot of the same kind of music that this band does. But dude, we started playing, the bass player and the drummer. Here's when you know you're in a good band, when it's easy to play. Okay, as someone that has spent a lot of time with metronomes and drum machines, my timing is pretty well nailed in my brain, right? So if timing is a little bit off, I'm still in my brain, I'm still pretty static, right? So if that's moving around a little bit, even great bands, the tempo can fluctuate a little bit. But this band is just so easy to play with. So we play that gig on Thursday night, and it's like, man, this was a lot of fun. We played a lot of fun music, from Motown stuff to some new Bruno Mars stuff and Maroon 5, and played a Mariah Carey song. I've never played a Mariah Carey song. So just lots of fun music.
I won't hold that against you. I'm just kidding, man.
Well,
you know me, man. I'm open-minded to any music, man.
Hey, I like one kind of music. Good music.
Yeah, exactly.
So if it's good, I'm going to dig it. But so, yeah, I inadvertently joined a band last week, and I think we're going to start doing a little bit of gigging. With my busy schedule, I'm hoping they don't book a lot of gigs, but, if I can get a gig in a month, it'll be fun to do.
Cool.
Now, and one more thing, speaking of that group, we played this song by this it's a project that Bruno Mars did with Anderson .Paak, I believe is his name. Started this band called Sonic Silk. Dude, that's usually not the kind of music I dig. I am floored by how great their album is. Man, I can't remember the name of it. I think just look up Sonic Silk. And I dare you to go to YouTube and look up them playing the song 777 live. It's unreal.
Aaron, is that the clip you sent me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's funky, man. Yeah, I dig it.
Well, so I just wanted to say that I found some good music last year too, but that one was really cool. Well, Eric, so I'm looking at my notes here. Audience can see me looking down here. Sorry, that's just part of the movie magic is we got to look at our
I don't
notes
think there's
sometimes.
anything wrong with looking at notes, frankly.
Well, so Eric, I wanted to talk about one thing that I can't remember if I've talked about it much on the air, but over the ones and zeros, let me correct myself. If I've talked about the issue in my cervical spine, the fact that I've got 3 pretty well damaged discs, and in this last year, the damage and the effects of it have progressed significantly. So now I've got, the way they describe it is moderate to severe stenosis on both sides of my C5, C6, and C7 discs. So I've actually lost about, when I do a curling motion with my bicep, I have lost about 75% of my strength in my right arm due to my nerve damage. And it's a daily thing. You know, people deal with herniated discs and some numbness and everything like that. But now it's affecting my life. It is affecting my shooting, and it's affecting my guitar playing. Like for instance, a good metric is I've known for years and years what my abilities are when it comes to technique and speed on playing parts on guitar. But it's really weird. There is a beat per minute, from 80 beats per minute to 110 beats per minute, where I could usually straight pick every 16th note, no problem. For some reason, in that time range, I get muddled up. And it's because of the particular muscles used at that speed.
Makes sense.
Dude, I can nail it faster than that, nail it slower than that. So again, that's a metric that I notice in a change in. And
You got an oscillator screwed up, man.
yeah, and
I'm sorry, I'm not making light of it.
no, so
My brain thinks in frequencies because of my
oh,
day
bro,
job.
the deal is that I went in after having an MRI and having a surgeon look at my MRI. Went to a nerve doctor and had, I think it's called an EAG, where they test your nerve function. And I've had it done before. I had it done because I've been dealing with this issue for a long time. But I had my nerves checked with this same doctor, let's say 6 years ago, I think, and everything was just fine because it's essentially, I believe it's like a radio frequency that goes through your, it acts like a radio frequency because it's of course electronic, but it sounds, when they plug these needles into he targets a muscle where a nerve would move, and he asks you to move particular parts of your arm. And it should sound like this scratchy, dirty volume pot, like this. Okay? But mine sounded like this. And he goes, see, that's bad. Right? So, and he literally said the exact same thing. He said, your nerve damage is moderate to severe, depending on which disc nerve that I'm looking at. So I say all that to say that part of this year and based on that, it may determine what exact classes I get to take this year, kind of digressing, but I am going to have surgery this year. And what I'm looking to do is avoid fusion, because I would have to have 3 fusions. But there's this really one of the best doctors, orthopedic surgeons for spines in the country. He's in Dallas, Texas, and he's the one that did the amazing surgery on my wife's back that changed her life. He was a pioneer and is a pioneer in disc replacements. So I'm going to try to have 3 synthetic discs put in, and get this fixed, fixed so I can start really regaining my strength and my nerves really getting to repair themselves. And I guarantee you that's what I'm looking for. Just like how my vision, of course, I don't need these glasses anywhere else but, looking at a computer, because I got my eyes fixed. That helped me with my shooting. But I have this slight digression with this nerve issue and the strength issue. But I'm looking forward to my shooting opening up again because of the surgery. And one thing that's real tough on me is prone shooting. And by the way, my neck is bothering me right now. I can feel it in my hands going numb and burning. But I hope this isn't boring the audience. But point is, I can't shoot prone for very long. So, man, I'm looking forward to, after I get my neck fixed, I'm looking forward to taking a long-range class, and hopefully it's one with Kyle DeFore.
Heck yeah.
But
shout out to Kyle.
But long story short, I could, depending on what this surgeon says, I could have surgery next month, or what I prefer is having surgery in April. So that would be after TACCon and then before any of these other classes we have planned.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to you getting relief for certain.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't bug me that much. Actually, I can function with it just fine. It's just that when you start losing strength and they're telling you it's severe, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the only thing that can help it is surgery at this point. Because I've had so much damage done, and arthritis and bone spurs. It's hilarious. The insurance companies want you to go through steroid shots, which did 0. And then they say they want you to take physical therapy, but physical therapy ain't going to do jack. I've already had it.
Bro, all I'll say about physical therapy is that you can get a book by Kelly Starrett and or watch his videos or purchase some of his videos based on the issue that you have and learn how to rehab stuff like that yourself. Mm-hmm. Now that isn't medical advice by any stretch, but and I'm not trying to beat up on physical therapists.
Yeah, make sure you talk to a doctor before you run through a book like that. We aren't doctors.
Yep. So my point is that there's only so far some of that can go when it gets to that point. So
yeah, well, I just want to get. I've dealt with it for 20 years. I remember the day my arms started going numb. I was on a tour in a hotel in L.A. I remember it vividly. So I thought I was laying on my arm funny, sleeping. It's like, but no. From then on,
Aaron, I just remembered something I've been intending. And speaking of necks, I got minor neck problems myself. Shooting prone yesterday, it bugged me a little bit. But I've been meaning to get one of those iron necks that Joe Rogan pushes. I think I'm going to end up getting one of those because, man, again, a lot of this is from jiu-jitsu too.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'll have to check into one of those after I get mine fixed too. Yeah. Well, Eric, do you have anything else to say before we move on to some stuff that'll piss you off?
Yeah. No, man, I'm good. Let's get to the bad news, I suppose.
You want to take it away?
Well, I can. Now, granted, I don't have this sitting in front of me. I wasn't intending to be that.
I've got some info I can pull right up.
So, bottom line is as we speak, Friday, the ATF released their final rule on pistol braces, and it's not good. You know, the ATF is on a regulation terror to the point where, again, in complete violation of Article 1 of the Constitution, you know, the legislature is the only entity of our federal government, of the three branches of our government, that can write law. But the ATF has been writing law via executive fiat, and this pistol brace law, or excuse me, man, boy, what a Freudian slip. This pistol brace rule that is effectively law is bad because, you know, arguably there's 10 million to 40 million gun owners, and I'd say it's not 10 million. It has to be at least somewhere in the middle, in my opinion, but I think it's upwards of that 40 million that have pistol braces on ARs or AKs, pistol versions that have been in existence or some form of that, you know, since the 1968 Gun Control Act, right? And which has been the law of the land as it relates to that, and then also the 1934 Firearms Act.
Yeah, National Firearms
Act. Pardon me.
Our great acronym NFA items, right?
Yeah. So I think it goes to show you that this particular executive, you know, the ATF, I think it was since 2012 was when the first pistol braces came out, by the way, to help disabled veterans, which in my opinion are some of the most important citizens in our country, you know, wounded veterans, to help them be able to more easily shoot heavier pistols like the AR pistol. And the ATF had said that was fine. They said multiple versions of these pistol braces were fine. But and had even tried to put out a rule like this, but all the uproar caused them to rescind it. But then Biden got elected, and, you know, unfortunately, there's been two high-profile shootings that, unfortunately, the person used an AR with a pistol brace. But we're not even going down the road that still yet less than 1% of crime is committed with rifles of any type, let alone rifles. Pardon me, ARs or AKs. So this particular regulation is, let's just face it, is just, again, anti-Second Amendment, and they hate AR-15s in the first place, or AKs. So they're just trying to make go ahead.
They don't care about the crime, and they just care. They just care about the peasants having them. Now, I think my cat's running in here. Hey, Judah.
Yeah. If they were really concerned about crime, if you know, these pistols were in a large number of crime, maybe they would have a form of an argument. But for them to even state that is illogical on its face. But again,
well, we don't need to go down this path because we need to really focus on this. But if they wanted to focus on gun crime and the weapons used in, you know, 99% of gun crime, they would go around collecting pistols, right?
Yep.
But that wouldn't fly with the public. So, you know, that's later on down the road that they want to try that. But, you know, I'm being a little facetious. But the point is, Eric, let me read this rule and let's make clear that there's been several cases challenging the frame and receiver rule that have gone through, I believe, at least a couple of appellate courts. Don't quote me on it. I watch, speaking of, Jared over at Guns and Gadgets. What an amazing
Phenomenal
source. That guy puts out incredible information every single day, sometimes 2 times a day. And his titles to his particular videos are true to what he's talking about. But man, there's another guy that's I'm not going to name his name, but he's this attorney out of California. His titles are all clickbait.
Yeah.
Stuff like, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
But it says something like the ATF's ruling on frames and receivers is destroyed by an appellate court. And then you look at his video and he's talking about a case that hasn't even been heard yet.
Yeah.
That I didn't mean to go off on that, but man, if you're on YouTube talking about law and gun laws, don't do clickbait just to get people to watch your show, because I'll tell you, I don't watch that guy's videos anymore. But I digress. Let me read this. I was trying to point out that this is probably going to be, it may even be stayed. Who knows, right? But thank God for Bruin. It's really we've been gaining some ground on the Second Amendment rights being, or privileges being given back that should have never been taken away from us. But again, who knows exactly how this is going to work, but let me read this, just a little bit of information. This is on the ATF's website, and they've got it. The title is Factoring Criteria for Firearms with Attached Stabilizing Braces. And Eric, they've got some really scary looking firearms sitting here, a picture on here. That's funny. You know, the ATF, and you can tell that's for effect, right?
Oh, yeah.
But so it starts out like this, and I won't read the whole thing here, but on January 13th, of course, on Friday, on the weekend, they dumped this.
Right before
on a
SHOT
holiday
Show,
week,
by the way.
Yeah, on a holiday weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So on January 13th, 2023, the Attorney General signed ATF Final Rule 2021R-08F, quote, factoring criteria for firearms with attached stabilizing braces. Amending ATF's regulations to clarify when a rifle is designed, made, and intended to be fired from the shoulder. The rule outlines the factors ATF would consider when evaluating firearms equipped with a, listen to this, purported stabilizing brace.
Yeah, purported. They use that wording because they're being coy, and essentially
that's saying you're more than likely lying.
Exactly.
Purported means being untruthful.
Yep.
So, and purported stabilizing brace to determine whether these weapons would be considered a rifle or a short-barreled rifle under the Gun Control Act of 1968. So, and of course, it's a rule, like you said earlier, they're they can't write the legislation, but they're writing these rules by fiat. So now it says here that this rule, a second, let me skip this. Let me see here. Okay, I'll read this. So this rule does not affect stabilizing braces that are objectively designed and intended as a stabilizing brace for use by individuals with disabilities and not for shouldering the weapon as a rifle. Such stabilizing braces are designed to conform to the arm and not as a buttstock. However, listen, here we go. If the firearm with the stabilizing brace is a short-barreled rifle, it needs to be registered within 120 days from the date of publication in the Federal Register. Now, let me say this too. So they're saying you have to register these from the date that it's put in the Federal Register, which, Eric, by the way, the Federal Register is every regulation and law in the United States, and it just lists them. I think it's up to about 12 to 15,000 pages, and we're talking about not the text, just listing the particular. So now, hey, that's a that's an alarm going off to dry fire, bro. Whoops.
It's an important one.
Yes. So we don't, but they say this again. This is on the FBI, the ATF's website. They're saying we have 120 days to register these, and it's funny that they're focusing on register. Okay,
Yep.
but for one thing, when they say that, why not say when it's going to be printed in the Federal Register? I don't understand why they do that.
Well, Aaron, I may be wrong, but I thought that this final rule is in effect as of the 13th, and that 120 days started at that point.
Okay, so in other words, but forgive me for not understanding that. There's another alarm reminding me to lift. Jeez.
You got them back to back. How are you going to do both in that amount of time?
I don't know. I probably crisscrossed them. My phone is a digital sticky note. So now back to this. Yeah, I didn't realize that was the deal. And so it's kind of legalese how they're stating that. Like, I guess everyone knows that when they put this rule out that it was actually published in the Federal Registry. So, but here, let's go through what it says here, what your options are. This rule is effective the date it is published in the Federal Register, which is what we just said. Any weapons with stabilizing braces or similar attachments that constitute rifles under the NFA must be registered no later than 120 days after date of publication, blah, 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 or the short barrel removed and a 16-inch or longer rifle barrel be attached to the firearm, or permanently remove and dispose of or alter the stabilizing brace such that it cannot be reattached, or the firearm is turned into your local ATF office, or the firearm is destroyed. So, we know they don't expect people to turn these in. So, that's just a major, I don't know if that's for effect or just to state that it's very serious.
Yeah.
That you have to get rid of this or they're going to, somehow you might get brought up on federal firearms charges. But here's what I want to focus on is that how are millions and how are they going to even accept millions of register applications in 120 days?
Yeah. And Aaron, again, I've read, because the final rule, I've got it pulled up as well on the website. The final rule itself is 293 pages, right? And again, I've read big portions of it. But that said, Aaron, to my understanding, and again, I'll find it in here, but I'll just speak off the cuff here. My understanding, Aaron, is that as long as you start the process within that 120 days, you are within compliance.
Yeah, and that's what I mean too. Of course, they aren't going to be able to prove them.
Yeah,
So that brings up another issue. Yeah, and sorry, I just want to make that clear. Maybe their website can accept it. I don't know. Over 3 months or 4 months. It's I don't know if their website, because so there's my short barrel rifle right there that I registered with the ATF in the last few months because we knew this ruling was coming down. And I just got ahead of it. But I'll tell you what, I hate that I registered that. But point being, it's just an amazing platform. And if I can get to that, that's the ultimate home defense weapon that I can think of. But the point is, right, so during this time that you're registering your firearm, how are you covered? Because you're admitting at that point you have an uncompliant weapon, right?
Yep.
If you've got 120 days. So, and they didn't say anything. Remember, they were talking about an amnesty. That's another thing. If they talk about amnesty, that means you're free from breaking the law. You're going to be looked down, and you're going to be judged as it's okay that you've broken the law because we're going to allow you to have broken the law thus far.
Well, Aaron, and I want to bring up that point is that how is it again? We know that the executive branch and both parties have done this. Just in my opinion, never to this degree, at least in recent history. How is it that when Article 1 delegates the passing of laws to the legislature, there is no mention of being able to write law from the executive branch in Article 2. It doesn't mention anything remotely close to that. So this is unconstitutional, obviously. But again, when you have individuals that do not respect the Constitution, it doesn't matter, and they're going to get away with it. Or if they can get away with it, they will.
Well, and we've been an extra constitutional country for a long time.
Yeah,
But
and I guess the main point, Aaron, is that how is it that before the 13th of December, all of those ARs or AKs or whatever platform, H&K, one of our good
13th
friends.
of January?
I'm sorry, Aaron, I misspoke. Yes,
just making sure I'm following you.
Thank you. 13 January is before that date, they were perfectly legal. There was no ATF agent or any police officer that if they saw you at the range shooting one of those firearms, would they try to arrest you for having a short-barreled, unregistered short-barreled rifle? Because it wasn't law, right, Aaron?
Mm-hmm.
But now a rule makes something to where a person can be fined and go to jail for 10 years for a felony. You know, I'm baffled that can even pass any kind of common sense test, even amongst our extra constitutional aspects of our country, unfortunately.
Well, and on how you're saying that, I do want to clarify, right? We know that right now no one's knocking on your door.
No.
But what you just said is 100% true, that it's now illegal, but you have 120 days to make sure that you're compliant and you've taken care of yourself. As you know, in those 120 days, you're actually a criminal, but we're not going to prosecute you until after 120 days. But it's let's also focus on this in the coming days. We're probably going to see lawsuits against this.
Yeah, I think it's already started.
So it'll be interesting. You know, is an appellate court. I'm not an expert on the way things go through the courts, but is a federal court going to put a stay on this, and then it starts rolling up the appellate process, and then up maybe to the Supreme Court? Is this going to be some emergency deal where there's multiple stays that are held up, through the court system? Who knows? Yeah,
Aaron, I don't know. And to be frank, and again, this is because we're not lawyers. It'd be nice we need to ask Andrew Bronca to come back on. And I know that this may not be in his area. It isn't. His is in defense law. Obviously he knows the Constitution. That's a given. But anyway, it would be nice to get some input on. I'm wondering if I wonder if that until that 120 days goes by, will it then be the time when these cases can move forward? Maybe there are other cases that can go. I don't know. I need to look online after this and see what's taking place. But
So here's another aspect, right? Did they gleefully always also think, hey, we get to register a bunch of firearms here?
yeah, I'm sure, Aaron. And again, that goes to the point. If this was about safety, why is it just now about mainly that's what they think is. I'm sure that they think that that's what's going to take place, or people will either just get rid of them. So maybe that is some safety aspect to it. But let's say everybody, Aaron, let's just use this for argument's sake. Let's just say that everybody that owns one registers it.
Mm-hmm.
How did that change how did that change safety in any manner, if they are in fact the problem, or if they are in fact a major danger to society, which we know they aren't? But let's just, for argument's sake, if everybody registered them, then what real difference does that make safety wise? It doesn't. If that was the case, I keep trying to be specific and succinct about it, is we know that they are a non-issue when it comes to safety overall. As a matter of fact, they keep people safer.
Well, we know that it is just that they don't like that there's been, what's a loophole? You call something a loophole when it's legal and you don't like it, right? Yeah. That's exactly. A loophole. It's legal, but I don't like it. So they don't like it that people have been able to effectively get around the NFA. Now, going back to one of their pronouncements, they said that misusing a particular accessory on a firearm does not create a short-barreled rifle.
Exactly.
So they specifically said that. So, the back and forth, I guess, depending, and it went on it's been going on for years and years.
Well, and Aaron, so if it was in fact, illegal, they would have done something about it by now. But let's face it, the difference is that Biden got elected, and they had I'm about to say pro gun control, anti-Second Amendment president in Biden. Well, Aaron, you hit on something I think is important, and I believe it was in the bump stock rule. Again, a similar rule that, to my understanding, is enjoined and can't be enforced now. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Aaron, the judge, stated in it, hey, listen, you said it was fine before, now all of a sudden it isn't. So, Aaron, that's why I see some of the legal arguments coming from this on the pistol brace rule, is that the ATF said it was all fine to this point, to include the one you just mentioned, when they said, well, if somebody misuses an item that is in fact intended for another purpose, doesn't change the legal definition of the device, or of the firearm. So, yeah, they've got some splaining to do when it comes to that. And look at our, again, Bruin. What is it? History, text, and tradition is definitely
at the time that the Second Amendment was ratified.
Yes.
Is that what you call it when it's ratified?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't want to come off as a goofball. But, well, Eric, on that note, let's still back up to a positive aspect. we have seen these multiple attacks, like, of course, well, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the fact is that we've been seeing all these attacks on the Second Amendment and people's rights to protect themselves with the firearm they choose, to have a concealed weapons permit or be able to carry on their person in public. We've seen all these attacks, but we've also seen a lot of great cases brewing for number one, brewing, right? Now we've seen lots of cases remanded back down to the lower courts to be decided against Bruin.
Yep.
Right. I'm not against it. You know what I'm saying? I'm using Bruin
in light of Bruin.
So
right?
Again, more than likely this is going to be challenged, and man, it may not be able to go into effect, just like the bump stock. I remember some word about the bump stock thing. I'm not following it because I'll tell you what, it's funny that came up. I'll relay a funny issue with I don't give a crap about being able to do some fake kind of half automatic, firing. Eric, the other day when something came up about this, I had heard Jocko and some of his team guys that were underneath him, they said, how many times did I use full auto on my... Now, it's different. We're not talking about cover fire with belt-fed weapons.
Yep, exactly.
But we're talking about the use of full auto on a personal weapon like an M4. They said, you know how many times I used full auto on that? And they both said 0.
Yep.
And then, Eric, it's fun to, another issue is when this came up the other day, I texted Kyle, okay, and he's been overseas multiple times in operations, right? As a team guy, I asked him, "Hey, how many times did you use full auto on your M4?" He shot back 0.
Yep.
So it's just interesting on the bump stock thing. I'm just trying to. Here's my point: is that I just don't. From a freedom standpoint, I care about it, but it just hasn't caught my attention as much.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's why if I ever went down the NFA route, it would be SBR and it would be suppressors. I'm not interested in full auto.
Yeah,
number one is go ahead.
You can, of course, shoot fast enough with just a 2.23 if you aren't able to control and place
or a
your hits right.
5.56.
Yep,
I'm messing with you, Aaron.
But you have the ability to shoot just as fast as you need to.
Yeah, absolutely, and more effective.
That's what I really mean. Yeah,
Aaron, suppressive fire. You can, in ways, shooting a little slower. Pinning down an enemy. Obviously, belt fed. It's the king of suppressive fire, but there's also the aspect of being able to have continued continuity of fire with semi-auto. Just 2 people that's got a handful of magazines with only one person firing at a time and firing bang, 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 bang about that speed can lay down some serious suppressive fire for a long period of time.
And you're talking about also in the aspect of maybe a bounding movement.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And of course, each person once that person either bounds and then the next person then takes over the firing. It's hard to talk about it effectively, just over the air, but just a 2-man team can absolutely keep fire going for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So again, using the semi-automatic feature as a benefit in that case versus full auto. So,
well, I'm looking at the clock here, bro. This is a long ass show. For a bonus episode, hopefully people are getting a lot of value out of all this time.
Aaron, I knew we were going to take a while, but we had some fun subjects and a serious subject as well. So, man, let's go ahead and call it, brother.
Sounds good. I am going to heed my electronic sticky notes here and dry fire and do a little bit of lifting.
Awesome.
So, that said, bro, have a good one. Always fun hanging out, and you have a good afternoon.
You too, brother. Take care.